All right. Wonderful to see you all. Hello. Welcome back. This morning we are talking about Buddha nature. Again, this is our third in a series of talks about the teaching of Buddha nature. We're talking about it in kind of a general sense, in a non-specific sense, which is probably wise. Buddha nature is always understood to be both transcendent and also immanent, so tangible and intangible. Hakuin, our friend Hakuin, reminds us in the very, very, very first sentence of Song of Zazen that all beings by nature are Buddha, as ice by nature is water. So you can see in that the formlessness, the non-specific nature of what he is describing, and also the specificity, the way it can freeze and take a shape, right, in activity, in speech, in a human life. So this is our third in this series, and we're using some poems that were given to me by my Zen teacher, Tim, some years ago. And if you've heard the first two, you know that we started off with him reminding us that Buddha nature is present even when we're not feeling particularly Buddha nature-ish, which is good to be reminded. It doesn't have an emotional quality to it necessarily. It shows up in the darkest of nights. And then in the second talk, the second poem, we were reminded that it shows up when we're making mistakes, getting things wrong, and there's really no difference between wiping out and doing a somersault in an absolute sense, right? So you can sort of see the progression, because today we're going to talk about how it shows up in everyday activity in non-specific ways. And so our poem, to get us started today, this time the poem goes like this. Buddha nature walking down the street. Buddha nature getting food to eat. Sitting, walking, laughing, crying. No Buddha nature. That's our poem. Buddha nature walking down the street. Buddha nature getting food to eat. Sitting, walking, laughing, crying. No Buddha nature. That last line's a bit of a punch, right? Those of you who are afflicted with Zen or have spent some time reading Zen stuff, especially Zen interchanges, koan records and teacher-student type stuff, know that that final line of like, no, I'm taking the whole thing away from you is actually a pretty typical Zen movement. And I hope there's an intuitive quality to it. I'll talk about it today, but I hope that there's kind of almost an intuitive leap that happens in you when you hear it, because you can see we're just listing in the poem the most mundane of activities. The life you were already leading today, walking down the street. Right, time for your meal. You're happy, you're sad, you're sitting, you're standing. Just normal activity. Therefore, the idea of that being Buddha activity is actually unnecessary, because it's everything. Because it's everything. And so when it's everything, then we don't need the word anymore. We don't need the label anymore. Right? It's a little reminiscent of no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. It's not separate from anything else. And so to affirm it or to deny it, either way. The no Buddha nature is a way of making sure that it remains non-specific and that we don't do this, which is what human beings do, right? We grasp. I'm going to specify and I'm going to own. I'm going to contain, I'm going to describe. I'm going to separate. I'm going to separate Buddha activity from other non-Buddha activity. I'm going to separate Buddha nature from my human nature. Right? And our poem just affirms human activity as Buddha activity. Buddha nature is walking down the street. and eating and sitting and walking and crying. It's happy, it's sad. Getting out of bed when you can hardly wait to get out of bed, and getting out of bed when it's the last thing in the world you want to do. Human, human, human. That's Buddha activity. And since it's everything, now we don't need that label anymore. Whoosh. The poem takes it away. So can you see kind of the affirmation of Buddha nature when it freezes into ice and has a very particular form and limits, and how it also affirms Buddha nature when it's melted and it's just everything. And then there's no reason to talk about the specificity anymore, right? Regular life activities. If it's everything, then we don't need the word. One of the things it did for me when I first heard the poem, or when this was first given to me, was it reminded me of Bodhidharma. Bodhidharmas are probably fictional character, probably a constellation of different people that in the myth turns into one person. The monk who brings the essence of Buddhism, the essence of Chan, or what is now Zen, to China in the record. Vast universe, nothing holy. Nothing holy is one of the things he was, attributed to saying. And of course we have that same idea. I'm going to negate the quality so that you see it everywhere. It isn't that it isn't there, it's that it's non-specific. There is no holy space because all spaces are holy. There's no holy person because all people are holy. There's no holy activity because all activity is holy. And the distinction, and we all do this is what human beings do, the distinction between the sacred and the mundane, and the special and the non-special, and the Buddha and the not Buddha, there's where we get caught. That's exactly where we get caught. And we all do this. It's so important to see. So my poem is a way of taking that away. No special. No special. Please don't do that. Please don't do special. There's a tremendous amount of anxiety around special. Right? There's a tremendous gap. There's a chasm, really, between the special space and the non-special space. It's easily overcome just by seeing it. Oh, I see it. I see what I did there. I see how when I elevate one thing, I reduce everything else. I see it. Poof, I've just healed it again. I've healed the universe. No gap, no chasm, no Buddha nature. Oh, I see. Right? So there's something really beautifully affirming. And as I mentioned, Zen literature has a tendency to affirm by taking something away. It has a tendency to affirm something by removing it as an idea, right? Nothing holy and everything holy. Can you feel it? No Buddha nature, everything Buddha nature. It just kind of comes in through the back, kind of the obstacle of the opposite of what we're used to seeing. The last obstacle to God is God, as Meister Eckhart says in the Christian tradition. He has a very, very, very similar sensibility. The idea of it becomes the thing that gets in the way of it. Right? So it isn't just Zen that uses language like this, and it isn't just Zen that affirms the universality of something. It's just a way of always reminding us that what we're talking about is referencing something else. The name for the thing isn't the thing. The Tao that can be named is not the true Tao. That kind of thing, right? So one of the ways that meditators start practice, generally speaking, is by, it makes sense that their perception is, I am in a place of suffering or difficulty or constriction or darkness. That's oftentimes what brings us to the cushion. And that I'm going to move, I'm going to use the activity of Zazen, or the activity of meditation, to take me to a place of greater peace or expansiveness or awareness or light. Right? That's pretty typical perception. I'm going to go from here, my humanity that is hurting, to a Buddha place, a Buddha state. Right? I'm going to go from here to there. And my vehicle is Zazen. My vehicle is meditation. My vehicle is my mindfulness practice. Pretty typical way of understanding what we're doing in the contemplative practice. And we can be forgiven for that. It makes sense. It's kind of a staged development. It'd be a hard narrative to argue with when somebody was really hurting and they were kind of new at this spiritual endeavor and they wanted to move from a place of suffering to a place of peace or joy. Cool. We can affirm that. Yeah. But after a while, sometimes a long while, we begin to understand it's actually the reverse of that. We're not going from here to there, we're going from there to here. We're going from being out, scattered, to home, to in. We go from the out to the in. Right? We go from there to here, not vice versa. There's that beautiful jujitsu of turning toward, being the welcoming home, being the changing the nature of the thing that's being welcomed. Right? Suffering stops being suffering when you stop resisting it. It's by definition changed. It isn't suffering anymore. It might be pain, but it's not suffering because there's no running happening. I've just melted the ice. Right? Something really, really powerful in that. No Buddha nature. Well, what an affirmation, actually, right? Because now there isn't a there to get to. No Buddha nature. That line just takes away the there. There isn't a there. Or a later. It's so good to be reminded of that. No later. Can you feel the tension between you and the later? Or the tension between you and the idea that there is another thing to be, another person to be, another way to be, another quality to have, another moment to work toward? Can you feel the stretch, the tension? There's a dissatisfaction just right in that. There's a suffering actually right in that. Someday I will be. We're talking about something different than aspiration. Aspiration is beautiful. The recognition that things evolve and grow and get bigger is beautiful. That doesn't have a dissatisfaction in it. It doesn't really have a tension in it either. It just has an open sense. When we take away Buddha nature as an idea or a particular behavior, when we take away its potential to judge us, right? And we take away we're taking away the later, we're taking away the future. It's beautiful. Then there's just the now. Only this, only the moment, only the now. Wow. Only the wide open wonder. Only the wide open wonder of what this is. Because now I don't have Buddha nature in the way. I don't have that idea in the way. I'm not saying that we shouldn't use this ancient koan for our own practice. The idea of Buddha nature, Tathagata Garbha in Sanskrit, is beautiful. It is a koan. It's not resolvable in the normal way anyway. And we should pick it up, and we should polish it, and we should wrestle with it. And we should get it and then not get it. Yeah, good. We're not negating any of that. The throwing it away, the no Buddha nature, is a pretty advanced teaching. You got to know something pretty well before you can throw it away. You got to really understand non-separation in order for no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, nothing holy to make sense. Right? This isn't a spiritual bypass thing. I don't have to worry about that. No, we're not quite there yet. Not quite there yet. But it's wonderful also to be reminded that's where this goes. That's where this goes. The nothing excluded ever place. Oh, now it's really wide open. Wonder doesn't have to land on a particular object. There aren't wonderful objects and non-wonderful objects. Wow. Wow. So, the fourth and final poem, which I guess I'll get to, I might as well. I'm already there. The fourth and final poem was 3 words. Wide open wonder. That was the fourth and final poem about Buddha nature that was given to me all those years ago. Many, many months, maybe even a couple of years after the first three words, wide open wonder. Not even a mention of Buddha nature, nothing specific at all. Just the nature of the moment when Buddha nature, and walking and crying and eating and the winter dark and the mistakes and the somersaults are all included. No, it's just this. It's just now. Just now. Not even a quality that needs to be mentioned. Right? No Buddha nature even mentioned. Just this. Mind itself. Mind itself. The nature of mind itself. Wide open. Nothing inside it, nothing outside it. Nothing inside it. Nothing outside it. Right? Everything included, nothing included. Can you feel the part of you that gets that? And the part of you that wrestles with that? Both. We can affirm both. Right? Wonder doesn't know. Wonder has a different quality to it than knowing. I'm pointing to my head. That kind of knowing. It has a apprehension of something else. Apprehension of non-separateness is really what it is. And we describe it as apprehension of non-separateness, which is a really fancy way of describing something that's just an experience. So we don't even need that phrase. But if you experienced wonder in the past week, a lot of us have, in retrospect, you recognize, actually, there's a sense of non-separateness in that. What I am apprehending, what I am bearing witness to, what I'm experiencing must be me. It's wondrous to me because it's an expansion of a scope of normal understanding or normal knowing. Again, I'm pointing to my head. And yet it's also a deep recognition, this is not foreign to me. This is not something apart from me. Right? There aren't really limits to what I am. And so the idea of including the thing I imagine as the object of my wonder is as natural as breathing, right? Wow. It's also a very, very, very moment-bound experience. It doesn't really have past or future. You know, awe or wonder. One of our ancestors, Hongzhi, in the Chinese tradition, he's not in our lineage chart for those of you who know about Soto Zen lineage, but that's okay, he's still one of the ancestors. In our tradition, he says, boundless emptiness is what exists from the very beginning. Step into the center of the circle of wonder. That was part of a practice instruction, if I remember right. He's actually talking about meditation. He's talking about Zazen. It's a funny instruction for Zazen. For those of you who know Dogen's Fukan Zazengi, you know that this is much, much, much more abstract than put your left foot here and your right foot here and hold your hands like this and arrange your robes. Holy cow. He says instead, oh, you want to learn how to sit meditation? Great. Boundless emptiness is what exists from the very beginning. So right away, you can't possibly miss this. It's what you are and always have been. And so you want to sit meditation? Great. Step into the center of the circle of wonder. Step into the center of the circle of wonder. Is there a self implied there or not a self implied there? Can you feel how that already points to the non-grasping nature of mind? What Buddha nature really is? It's never about owning, possessing, grabbing. It isn't something you have or don't have. It's something non-specific. Yep, and there still is a directionality. Put yourself in the center of that. So these four, taken as a whole, these four little poems, I will wrap up here, do have a natural progression, you know? We start by needing to be reminded, because we're practitioners who live human lives, and we suffer, and we experience difficulty on a daily basis, right? Big ones, big difficulties, and little ones, little difficulties. So we started by being reminded of how we shine forth, how our true nature, Buddha nature, shines forth even in darkness, whether you see it or not. Not the point. It's shining forth because that's its nature, right? And then we were told that your whole being shines. Every bit of you is Buddha. Every bit of you is Buddha, right? Even the mistakes, even the flaws, even the stuff we're working with, right? The needs improvement part doesn't change the you're perfect part, right? Both, 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 both. And then the third one reminded us today of how sitting, walking, laying down, getting lunch, going through your day, checking your emails, looking for your car keys. Human, 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 human. So that even the label becomes something that we pull up when we need it, but the label becomes very gauzy. The label Buddha nature becomes something kind of extra, right? The idea of separate is gone. And then finally we describe what that is, what that whole thing is, wide open. Wide open wonder, waking up in a human body again. There it is, in and out. Wow. Right? Ready again. Ready again to be pierced by the human experience and also pierced by the experience of awakening, love, expansion. This is enlightened nature. Wow. It's always done. Cannot fail. And yet something to be done. Wow. Wow. I hope these 4 have a progression. I hope that seems right. I hope these have been helpful. It's a famously difficult thing to talk about. I wanted to challenge myself. Buddha nature is extremely difficult to talk about. Again, because of it having a specific and a non-specific nature, but it also seems really important. It's on my heart and it's on my mind these days, mostly because these are difficult days. Difficult days, and when we watch and we witness ourselves and others acting from places that we know are constricted and painful and ashamed and rageful, we know there's something better that's possible. And part of why our hearts are broken is because we think, yeah, but that's not what you are. You're acting from a place that isn't correct, that isn't right, that isn't true to what you really are, right? You've lost your way. And the reason we sit every day, the reason we have a practice, right? The reason we chant, the reason we do meditation, the reason we listen to Dharma talks is to remind ourselves, wait, what am I really? What is this really? What is this really? I want to act in alignment with what this whole thing really is. I want to come full circle. I want to come home again. I don't want to get lost. I know how I feel when I act from the smallest parts of me. I know what that is. I can tell afterwards. Something wasn't right there. What happened? That wasn't me. Correct. Buddha nature. Remember, 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 remember. Yeah. So, I needed to be reminded, as we all do. That's why I offered these. And I hope they're of help. And as always, I thank you for your attention. I thank you for your practice. And we'll try something else next month. But it's been wonderful to be able to talk about these. And it's been a long time since I've thought about these poems. And it brings up a warm feeling in my heart for the earlier days of my practice and for my teacher and all the gratitude that comes with being taken into practice the way that a lot of us experience, being welcomed in to an ancient tradition where the way has been walked for us by others, and we get help in walking it, and we get support from people in walking it. Oh, there's a beautiful feeling there, and so that's been wonderful for me. I'm glad for this opportunity. All right, that's as much as we have today.